I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, April the 16th. And the market improved quite a bit last week, but now we need the weather to improve. Oh, terrible week last week with those spring blizzards up in the northern plains and parts of the Midwest. Just making it really tough on these guys right in the middle of calving season and suffering big time losses of their calf crop. It's hard on their cows. You just look at some of these conditions up there, and it came pretty far south. This picture here of these trucks are struggling in it. That was outside Sydney, Iowa, which was down in the southwest corner though, so it got pretty far south. Then you got those terrible fires going on up there in northwest Oklahoma, just hundreds of thousands of acres burned up, and people losing losing life, losing fences, losing property, losing homes, losing cattle. It's just a bad situation. It's got to get better. It can't get any worse. We need things to improve, and it's looking like that we might get some improvements, some more moderate type weather. We also need that for your high population areas to start getting our grills out and eating up some of this beef, and it looks like we've got some of that coming this way. You look at the board for last week, June live cattle futures ended the week at 103.65, up $1.33. April spot fats up big time, up 4.33 for the week, ending at 116.55, and still falling short of where this charging cash market's at, and it'll have to be up big early this week here to catch up to it, because we're over halfway through April now. Your August live cattle board at 104.27, up $1.70 for the week. May feeder cattle ended the week at 140.37, up 4.75. April was up 4.05 at 139.37. You look out there at August, it's sitting at 145.10. Better than it has been, but still about $10 or more off where it was there several weeks ago when it peaked out. But the fat cattle trade just kind of waned on there through the week until Friday, and really jumped with help from that Thursday board when it was up sharply. But through Thursday, they had only sold about 30,000 head in the 5-area feeding region, most of them in the southern plains, and most of them from 117 to 118, and kind of an even split there, and hardly any dress trade at all. Friday, your guys that had held out for a better market in Kansas and in the northern plains, but you really got to respect the Kansas guys that held out. It would have been easy to puke those cattle at 117, but they held on, ended up getting $1.20 for your late Kansas sales. That would be $2 to mostly $3 higher than the previous week. And then your Nebraska and western Nebraska and Colorado guys up in the northern plains, they've been trading at a premium. They got really tight numbers here for the next few weeks till we get into heavier supplies of cattle, and they've been selling better. They sold all the way up at 122, and the bulk of your live sales will be 122. Remember, it was 119.50, which was better than everybody else the previous week, but that's 2.5 higher for the week. And then they started selling their dress sales mostly at 190, so that's a pretty good trade there too. Box beef cutout values quite a bit lower last week, and we think we've just about hit the bottom, but we may end up going another week or so because the weather has been so nasty. And just down in the southern plains, you can't think about getting your grill out because you're going to start another brush fire. In the northern plains, it's got ice all over it. The northeast, your high population areas, are going to have crappy weather most of this week, and so it may be a while before we get these cutouts turned around or bottomed out anyway. But they were down pretty hard last week for the average trade, and your end of the week sales were a little bit lower than the average of last week. But choice cutouts, your weighted average on last week's trade, 213.34, down 407. Your average select box trade for last week, 201.13, down 645, and widening out that choice select spread at 12.21 last week. But you look at your feeder markets, and they improved quite a bit. Your real-time index ended the week at 138.04. That was $2.45 higher than the previous week, which makes a lot of sense because your cash feeder trend in your sales last week was firm to $5 higher. Spots sharply higher in some places that didn't have a sale the week before or didn't have a very good run the week before. And we saw some of the markets like OKC West, they had a real light run the week before and come together good for them last week. They had a better run, had a lot of good cattle, and they sold really well. Mentioned Ogallala livestock auction there, and Ogallala, Nebraska, probably the hottest sale we've had so far this spring. Even after losing some ground on the market, they really had a great sale there, and everything come together for them. But all your sales were better. At the end of the week there, some sales we don't talk about very often had respectable market there. Northwest Stockyards in Enid, Oklahoma on Friday had 61 head of steers, weighed 786 at 140 and a dime. Cottonwood Livestock Auction in Cottonwood, Idaho on Friday sold 110 steers, weighed 801 pounds at 135.75. That's your feeder flash for Monday.